All right, we're Benji and Brady. Welcome back in to another episode of the Higher Up Podcast. Recording this, you guys just got back from convention.
We did. San Diego. Can't beat it.
San Diego. I mean, you can't beat the weather, I'm sure.
It was beautiful. Phenomenal.
Beautiful, phenomenal. Pictures look great. Team did well. So y'all had a lot of good things. Benji, you were mentioning a little bit for the show. You had a lot of people come up, kind of share with you about the podcast. Before we jump in today's episode, I know we had gotten a message after convention about another Serve-Pro employee that listens to the podcast. But share a little bit about some of these things, just what it means, like and sharing the podcast for others to hear it and see it, but just the impact that I think it's making. Obviously, this is what the intention behind it was to have some impact on people, whether that's spiritually. I mean, obviously that's always the number one thing. Right. Business, and then how to intertwine those two. So, man, before we jump in, take a moment and just share some of that.
We had, and you hear this all the time. We had a lot of people, comment and say thank you and y'all do a great job or what have you. But at convention this year, there was a lot of folks, people I'd never even met. I don't know who some of these people are, that would just come up and say thank you guys for what you're doing to help. It's actually helping our business. 1, 2, we like the faith aspect of it. You guys are very faith driven, and we don't shy away from that. And and we had a gentleman actually Instagram us, Robert from Kentucky. He just said thank you so much for the impact you've made on my life. And I know we don't get a lot, people direct messaging us those type things, but when they do, we want to point that out because we do have people that like, we do have people that share. And for those of you listeners out there or watchers on YouTube, thank you. Thank you for liking and commenting and sharing the content, because it's not just about Benji and Brady and Adam. It's about the message that we can do to help people in their business. Mm-hmm. But remember, our number one core value is honor God. And that's what we try to do every single day. So we did come off the week of convention. It's fantastic. And people that I didn't even know listened to the podcast or watched the podcast. I had a couple tell me they actually show it on YouTube to their team, like in training mornings and things like that. So, and obviously they can't do it for 30 minutes at a time, the show link.
They can show the little clips on Instagram.
Yeah. So, but I just want to say thank you all for doing this, because it was a vision we had a couple years ago. And if it's helping impact you, that's why we do this.
Yeah. Well, it's a good way. I think we've shared a little bit from time to time. It's a good way for the two of y'all. I mean, y'all get a lot of calls. You field a lot of questions. And obviously when you go to convention, people get to kind of see you. They ask, like, well, how do you do this? Why do you do this? Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of this too, the podcast has been a great way for the two of you guys to get in front of some of those people and maybe preemptively answer those questions that they may have wanted to ask you, and then they get a whole episode about it versus 5-minute conversation or an email.
I do want to point out to you Spotify listeners out there that if you switch over to Apple Podcasts, you can actually watch the video now.
Spotify don't have that yet?
You don't have that feature?
Well, Spotify holds theirs very tightly unless you use their podcast service. You can't upload the video.
They will eventually have to make the change, I'm sure.
They'll break down.
I say that jokingly, but you can, on Apple Podcasts, you can not only listen, but you can watch the podcast as well.
It's good. It's a cool little thing. So we're continuing our series where we talk a lot about the principles and sayings that your dad, Mr. Wilson, taught the two of you before you kind of took over this business and kind of handle things. So Brady, talk a little bit. We're jumping into one of your favorite sayings.
Yeah, but Adam, I want you to say it.
Prior proper planning prevents pitiful poor performance.
You got it. I want to
take. You have no idea how much I practiced that before you walked in here.
It's interesting because that is one of our dad's sayings. But I actually looked this up. There is a leadership guide on the 7 P's of success, and the 7 P's are not this title. These are what they are: purpose, plan, passion, practice, presence, pain, and positivity. Where he came up with this saying, I have no idea.
I think this might actually be one that he made up. Maybe, I don't know.
I will say, of all the different things I've heard you told us over the years that your dad has taught you, I do genuinely feel like this is one of the top 3 things you say all the time.
Yeah.
But you're very good at planning. Like, you're very much your schedule, how you believe your schedule controls what you do and things. But I do feel like this is one of the top 3 things.
Especially this is something I'm very passionate about. You can ask anybody in our organization, and you can ask my kids. Like, you could go up to my kids right now and say 7 P's, go, and both of them, they may roll their eyes and go, blah, blah, but yeah, this was one of the things that he hammered a lot to us, and really where it came out of is, from your parents, or you may have other people that are very influential in your life. There are these moments, like these teaching moments, these coachable moments, and a lot of times with our dad, it would be like, let's say that something didn't go as planned, okay, or something just didn't go right. Then, he would always say, son, you know what the 7 P's are,
Mm-hmm.
and we just didn't plan well, did we? I remember this one, I can't remember what year it was, but when we were a trainer in the Serve Pro business, we would take all of our franchises and do like a mini convention at Gulf Shores. You probably know where I'm going with this. But I was doing some of the tech stuff after college, and I would get the media and things set up. You would have done a whole lot.
I was gonna be like, hold on, you were doing all this.
I was doing some of that. I wasn't very good at it, but I did some of it. And
we had to learn trial by error back then.
And obviously, we're very patriotic, and so Dad said
2011.
2000. Okay, there you go.
Because I was
love how you just start talking and it clicks for him.
I was in the hospital that year. That's the only reason I remember
that's
that.
right. That's right. Yeah. And so, he said, we always started out with the national anthem and Pledge of Allegiance and all that stuff. So he goes, I want a good, like, moving national anthem video. And I was like, I got it.
Did you edit a video?
I did not edit it, but I found, but I did one of these things. Like, I went out to YouTube and I looked at like the first 30 seconds. Man, that's going to be awesome. And we got down there and we.
When I heard you say the first 30 seconds, I was like, "Oh no!"
And we played the video.
That's a great
video
reaction.
was incredible. Okay, video, the national anthem. Whoever did it, I don't remember who did it. But like right after the national anthem was done, then I forget who the politician was. But
Ross Perot.
Might have been.
It was Ross Perot, because I remember hearing about it.
They came on and did like their pitch, and you should have seen my face. It was just like, and so afterwards, this is what he told me. He said, "Son, you didn't plan that out very well, did you?" But I'll never forget that. And he said, proper planning prevents pitiful poor performance.
You know what's funny about the saying, though, is not only would he say it, he would say it slow. Like, he would actually slow down the slogan, like the actual title for us, because he wanted to ingrain it in us that you have to plan so you don't have pitiful performance. That's right. Yeah. Poor performance.
That's right.
And it's interesting because he used it in every aspect of life, not just business. Obviously, this is why we do this podcast, but he did it. We'd play sports. He was our basketball coach back in the day. And everyone hated running. Remember the old suicide runs? Good night. He would say, guys, if we don't plan, we're going to have pitiful poor performance. Like, he'd use it in every aspect of our life. There were times that we were the two that we were rolling our eyes at him, because it got to be funny over time,
we knew what was coming.
It didn't matter. It was almost like, well, I'm not going to say that one because that's from The Office. We're not going to do that on this show. But it's just
a family show.
It's just one of those. It's just one of those.
I already know.
It's one of those sayings that, like, you say something and you knew the 7 P's were coming out. You knew it was coming, and there was nothing you could do about it, right? And he would say this all the time: businesses don't fail because they don't do the right things. They fail because they don't plan properly. That's what he would tell us all the time. And what could we do? I think Brady's talked about this before, the ready, fire, aim approach. That's not the right approach. Like, you have a gun for a reason. You got to get ready. You got to aim first, and then you fire. So again, some people in business just go, we're going to figure it out as we go, right? We all have different roles in the company. We all do different things. You as an employee out there that might be listening right there, play your role well. We've had many podcast episodes about that. But don't just figure it out as you go. Take the train. If you don't train, how are your people supposed to learn? Like, how are they supposed to know what to expect? You can't just throw it out there for them and just expect them to know what to do.
Yeah. Let me, as we're talking about planning, why do you feel like planning becomes so secondary to so many people? It seems like it should be an obvious, right? Like, hey, you got to plan, you got to do well. But I always feel like too, whether it's in business or life or teaching your kids, planning feels like it's something that we're talked about over and over and over again. What would the two of you say why do you feel like it's an oversight to so many people? Do you feel like it's people don't take the time or they don't think it's important? Like why is it something that seems like it's overlooked?
I think a lot of people try to plan, but I don't think they document what their plan needs to be, to be honest, because it doesn't keep people on track, right? I mean, we know how it is. How many things come at us every single day? And you're like, oh, I forgot that. I should have done that 2 days ago. You can't remember things, right? It's almost like the military. They have so much planning that goes into. We had a gentleman at convention, Extreme Ownership. What was his? I can't even say his first name.
By the way, I saw that got posted, and I was like,
that was good. Fantastic. His whole approach to the military. How he had a mentor in his life who was actually his boss in the military that wanted him to take extreme ownership. And a lot of people will take extreme ownership and they'll go, well, it's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. Versus going, I got to take responsibility for this. He was like, if I didn't plan properly for my team and my unit and know where everybody was supposed to be, not where they're at, but where they're supposed to be, that's what our planning does for us. If we don't plan that stuff ahead of time, when we get into battle, when we get into the real job every single day, how are we supposed to know if things are done right? We just expect the same expectation all the time. And we look up, issues arise or what have you. And then we go, well, that's because, you didn't train me properly. No, we didn't train you properly. You're just not doing it the right way. So that's where he was always, you got to plan. You got to plan. You got to plan.
So, so Brady, why do you think? Why would you feel like planning's overlooked?
I think I was trying to figure out the best way to say this without like being harsh to our audience out there.
Just say it.
I think there's a couple different groups of people. I think there is a group of people that just don't know how.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and you need somebody to teach you, or you need to learn it. The great thing about, I was just sharing this story yesterday. The great thing about the world that we live in right now is that we can we've got access to anything and everything we could ever want or need, you know?
We're going to have to cut it and start back that conversation. I'm going to have to make sure I edit this. Why is he coming through there?
He's in the Studio A mix.
We're going to go back to that right where I asked you, like, hey, so I can cut it in the podcast. Do not forget to edit this. You got to push it.
The other one.
Other one.
We got it. When he came on, I looked at you. You should have seen your eyes. You were like,
I was trying to stop you because I was like, had a good point, and I was like, I want to be able to cut the podcast right back to that.
Yeah.
It was a good point. Yeah. For a second I was like, is that Stan?
I thought he was just coming through the wall.
I did too. I was like, why does he come through the wall? Because that was a good point. I do honestly feel like.
No, louder.
I do honestly feel like, yes.
Yeah.
But I do honestly feel like planning is something you hear people talk about all the time. And I don't, like, why is it? Because that's one of the things we've done.
Ask Brady a question.
I am. That's why I stopped.
Yeah, because I was a little distracted. And
I told him, I was like, I looked at Brady and I said, am I hearing Stan through the wall? So this is a cut when I'm editing this podcast.
There's a clap right there.
All right, so Brady, what would you say? Why do you feel like planning is overlooked a lot?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question and trying to figure out the best way to say it to our audience.
Just say it.
Okay,
Just
all right.
say it.
Okay, got it. I think there's a couple different groups of people. I think there is a group of people that just don't know how. I mean, maybe they weren't taught or anything like that, but you can't use that as an excuse.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just having this conversation with some of our team yesterday. Like, we live in a world to where information and learning is at our fingertips. I mean, with AI, with YouTube, there's even a resource out there if you're a Google user called Notebook LM. I mean, you can feed in information and it's got like this little AI podcast that, so there's all kind of ways.
It's only going to get faster.
Yeah. But I mean, books, you mentioned extreme ownership. I mean, there's books out there for planning. There's one called Getting Things Done by David Allen. I've read that a couple times. There's There is Redeeming Your Time by Jordan Rayner. There's Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, which I'm reading that one right now. But we can't say that there's. I just don't know, right? So I think that there's one group of people, and the easy answer is, and not that you're going to learn it overnight, but it is a learnable skill. It is something that, and it, for some people, it doesn't come naturally. Okay. We're trying to teach my daughter right now, she's about to go to college, and you're going to have a plan. You got classes and when to study, and it's not like high school, so we're working with her on some of those things. But then I think there's another group of people, and this is going to be the harsh reality, is they just want somebody to tell them what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And that can't be the way either. And for me, it's easier because I am such a planner, and I am kind of somewhat of a control freak. I don't mind telling people what to do. I don't mind helping them. Okay, here's the plan, here's the thing, and just go do it. There's a balance in that as well, that it's more of a guide. But the ones that are planners, you will be more successful if you plan. And I think that's why our dad built this into us. It was like prior proper planning. It's just like every single day he wanted us to get into have the mindset that planning is important. And so that's what I think. And you just have to make a conscious effort to. It's kind of like when somebody says, "Hey, do you have a budget?" And people say, budget, that's kind of like a 4-letter word in our household, But some people don't know how to do it, and some people just don't want to do it because they don't want to.
I will say, to elaborate on what you said a minute ago, I think a lot of people don't realize that by planning properly, it actually frees you up more time to do other things. It really does. And no one says that you got to have, every single minute of every single day with a calendar event. That's great for some people. Some people, you need the free time to be able to think about other things you got to get done.
Yeah.
I think that goes a long way to understand. Think about this. People have lists of things they do, right? That's planning. I got to get this done. It doesn't have to necessarily be on a calendar. We happen to use a calendar and a task list is what I use.
Yep.
Years ago, I read the book Eat That Frog. It was a really small book, really big letters, and it's the whole jar principle, right? You put in the big rocks. What's your 3 big rocks for the day? It teaches you how to plan properly. So I think Brady's right. A lot of people they don't want to plan because they don't know how to start. And the key is you just got to start with something.
Yeah, and I think to that point, Benji, when you really get to see the benefit of it, I correlate plans and budgets together because, I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan, and one of his daughters talks about a budget is actually what you said. It's a freedom to spend.
Mm-hmm.
A plan, a calendar. It gives you freedom to say no. If I were to say, Adam, hey, me and my wife would love to have breakfast with you and your wife 8:00 Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say?
I was like, I got to be at church on Sunday.
You got to be at church, right? Because you've already made the conscious effort, the decision. Yeah. Now, whether it's not on your calendar or not, I'm not saying that, but you've already made it. You and your family have made a commitment that I'm going to be in church on Sunday morning. So you didn't even have to hesitate. You're like, no, I can't do that. We're going to be in church.
Yeah.
Right.
You didn't have to think twice.
You didn't have to think twice. So when somebody, if you're in a business setting or leadership setting, and you've got a lot of free time that's on your calendar, and somebody says, "Hey, can you XYZ?" You're like, "Yeah, sure."
Mm-hmm.
You may have priorities, but there's things that you're thinking about all the time, and until you get them out of your head and actually put them on a calendar or put them on paper, then I'm sure you guys have had this happen before, because it happens to me all the time. Somebody starts singing like a stupid song, and you just can't get it out of your head.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You finish
like,
the lyric.
Oh my gosh, I can't. I just can't.
And then you got to listen to it.
Or you finish the lyric.
Or you finish
the lyric. So this is the same concept. When you have things that are constantly coming, then it's in your brain until you get it out of your brain, like get it onto some type of physical medium, whether it's your phone or whether it's a piece of paper or a notebook, then those things are constantly you're going to be reminded of them, and it's going to drive you crazy because it's just circling. And so you don't give yourself margin to be able to think about other things. That's what planning does.
Well, and I think by not having that planning, you allow those distractions.
Yeah.
And that will sidebar you. I think that's something you've talked to us as a team about so much, how easily side conversations or like a side quest, right? Like, you have a main quest for the day. I've got a main goal I got to get done. Somebody just walks in your office and says, hey, I need help with this. And if you give into it instead of saying, oh man, I've got to focus on this today, you do it. And then the next thing you know, you had your main goal was due, and you're like, well, now I'm backed up against the wall getting it done because I allowed myself to move into that. And so that's something too. Distraction can easily put from that. So if you've planned it and you have that, when distractions do come or potential distractions, you can guard yourself from that.
Yeah. I think it'd be neat to let's just break down the 7 piece really quick. And again, we're going to use Dad's approach. Slow down a little bit. Okay. So the first one, prior. Plan before the pressure hits so you don't have to do something about it during it.
Yeah. That's good.
Proper. Not just any plan, the right plan for the situation. I go back to the extreme ownership guy that spoke, Leaf, right? Leif. Sorry, I'm saying his name wrong. Leif. Fantastic. Like, he told us how many times that they have to cover for each other to get from one spot to the next, so that you can plan properly of when to actually move. Like, if you're taking down the enemy and you got one guy on guard, that's not a good thing. But what if I got 2 guys on guard? One can move, get in position so that person can guard while the other guy can move. That's planning properly. So we can plan for the right situation. Planning, actual work, not wishful thinking. How many times do we start trying to plan and we're like, man, I wish I could do that. I could do that. You got to write it down because no one can remember it.
Yep.
Prevents. Planning isn't a guarantee, but it is a guard. We talked about the calendar event. It guards you that time. It guards you that resource. Pitiful. The kind of failure you're going to be embarrassed about later.
Yeah, that happened to us. That happened to us a lot.
That word pitiful hits you pretty
because you're
hard.
Like, if I only did this, I would have. I should have. That's pitiful.
Woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Yeah.
Woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Poor. Below the standard you set for yourself. Think about that. If your standard is X and you're trying to get to X, you don't want to set the standard below. That's poor. Performance. The output everyone else sees, but few prepare for it. So proper prior planning prevents pitiful, poor performance. Every P carries its own weight. If you skip one of them, the whole thing falls apart.
That's good.
Yep. I like that.
Why do you think that, I know we've talked about, specifically teammates planning and all. Why do you think leaders don't plan properly?
I think sometimes you have a goal you have to get to, and it's almost like you're trying to move faster than you should be because you're trying to get something done. Like if like Pastor Jeremy comes to me and says, Adam, I need this, and this done. And I just spit out, I think we should do A, B, C, and D instead of thinking through what are the true impacts of A, B, C, and D.
Yeah, you do that with me a lot.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think that's something I'm trying to be better. I think you're right. I do. But I do think that too. But that's also why I'm trying to say that's why it's the first thing that came to me is because I know I'm more of a reactive person. And so you don't always want to react to something. You want to be able to plan for it and know for that. So I think a lot of times leaders, they're given a task or a goal or something that has to be done. And I think instantly you start thinking, well, what's the fastest way I can get to that goal? Or what's the fastest way I can get it done?
Yeah.
And necessarily quick isn't always the best.
I would agree.
Yeah. I think my perspective is too many competing priorities. There's too many things out there, and we've said this a lot, and our team, they know it like the back of their hand, but when everything's important, nothing really is. So I think for most leaders that when you try to focus on everything, then it's like you can make an excuse, well, I got to focus on everything. So why do I need to plan? Like I can just fly by the seat of my pants, as opposed to the Pareto principle, which is the 80-20 rule. focused on what are the highest and best uses of your time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what you as a leader, like, what are the only things that you can do? Like, and it's not necessarily like, well, I can just delegate that, or I'll just let somebody. It's not about that, because it's about there's certain things that only I can do as a leader, and so I need to focus on those, and then I can plan around those, and that's how I structure. Typically, like I sit down on Friday afternoons and I plan out the next at least a week, but normally 2 weeks at a time. Doesn't mean that it doesn't change, but at least I've got the plan. Like, the plan is in place. I don't wait till the day of or the day before.
And you are going to have emergencies come up. Let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you have to shift. But I think there's too many competing priorities out there. And you got to figure out what are those things that only you can do and plan around those.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that gives you the chance to find out where your team can take some of those things off you. Pastor Jeremy tells us all the time, if it's only held by my hands, it's limited by my hands. So if I'm not willing to give off some of these things and understand that sometimes the quality that I have or that I've gained to get to, like the way that I edit a photo or edit a video, it's taken years to that point.
Mm-hmm.
I have somebody under me that I'm trying to teach. I need to realize that it may not be to that standard yet, but it's a standard that's acceptable, and it's a standard that has quality that meets what our look is or our quality is.
Yeah,
I think that's a great point. We had a guy in ServPro we used to work with in Storm, and he would say, "Many hands make light work."
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you spread it out and everybody does their part, then it's not just solely on one person.
Yeah. And let's do this before we get to the end of the wrap up. We do want to bring back some biblical roots of planning, because that's important. Proverbs 16:3 says this: commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. Proverbs 21:5 says, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. So it's even the Bible talks about planning, right? So I think that faith doesn't replace our planning, but it does fuel. Our faith fuels us. So how do we put some practicality to this today as we wrap up the show? Always start with the end in mind. What does that look like for you in your business, where you're at in life? Define what the win might look like, right? If the win, and even do that before it starts moving itself. How do you start moving the plan forward? Identify your obstacles. I mean, we all have issues, but like Brady said, you can only focus on 2 or 3 at a time. No one can ever focus on 10 to 12 at a time. You gotta get the 1 to 3 in place. Don't plan around best case, plan around realistic case. Build in margin time. We talked about that. Build in that margin time to help you. Time, money, and energy buffers, but everything else will take longer than you think it will. Get the right people in the room early. It doesn't always have to be the next man up, right? If you are an employee out there in your company listening to this episode right now, look, do everything you can unto the Lord, and everything else will take care of itself. Get trained. Do it the right way. You'll be rewarded for it. And make sure your heart's in the right place there. Write it down. You got to write things down. There was many times that I used to try to remember everything. Obviously, can't do that anymore. I'd say, hang on, let me write that down before I forget it. Because I'll either put it on a task, I'll put it in a note for me to go back and remember later, catch up, or whatever.
That gets worse as you get older, by the way.
It 100% does. A plan in your head is just a wish. A lot of people forget that.
Yeah.
But a plan on paper is a tool that will help you as you move forward. Review and adjust. Brady talked about the 1 week to 2 week time period. Review and adjust. Things are going to come up. Doesn't mean it's set in stone, but it can be. But you got to leave room in case something comes up. And planning just isn't a one-time event. You got to revisit it weekly. So you might need to have a task for planning time to set yourself up for success. A written plan is a promise to your future self. What closing thoughts might you guys have about the 7 P's of success?
Well, I come back to our dad. He was such a planner that, and for you guys that don't know, he passed in 2017 from cancer. But he was such a planner that even like early on, he had everything planned out for his estate and his death. And he didn't know. I mean, this was like 10 years prior. So I think Benji can attest to this because I remember, walking through it. But some people say when the family member passes away, like there's a lot of logistics and a lot of things you got to navigate through. Our dad made that easy for us.
We didn't have anything, hardly.
The burial was all paid for. The estate planning was all done. The trust were all set up, and everything just moved in motion. So this wasn't one of the things that he just talked about and didn't do. He even did it for things he had no clue that would ever happen. And so he was like the master planner, and that's what I want to be like.
Yeah, I'll to sum that up too. I remember every year we had the family board meeting. The four of us. Seemed like it was every beginning of January, but we'd always ask, Dad, if something happens to you, we need to know what to do. And he would say, call that guy, and that guy. There was 3 people.
Yep.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Call those 3 people. And every year we asked the same question. What happens if? He said,
same
call
answer
that
every
guy,
year.
Same answer.
that guy, and that guy. And so when Brady and I were out there when he passed, he actually passed in Houston. We were on the way back with our wives, driving back from Houston. And it was almost like we asked each other, what do we do? We called that guy, we called that guy, and we called that guy. And everything else for the next, it was probably an 18-month process to get everything. But Brady's right. We didn't have to plan much because it was all taken care of.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, the 7 P's of success. Proper prior planning prevents pitiful poor performance. We want to take the time to say thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Higher Up Podcast. As always, you can subscribe, higheruppodcast.com/subscribe to your favorite channel. Again, we're on Apple, Spotify, many other podcast platforms online, also on YouTube for those of you that watch us. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you tuning in. And as always, go out and choose to live a higher up life. We'll see you next time.